Hello students, I am Dr. Rajeshri Mutha, MBBS DPB, Diploma Pathology and Bacteriology. Currently I am working at SMBT Hospital as a lecturer in Microbiology Department. So today we are going to study about the nervous system. So this is basic structure of the or parts of the nervous system. So nervous system is mainly divided into three parts, that is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system. The central nervous system is mainly of two parts, that is brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, this is the main contains is nerves which arises from the brain and spinal cord. So cranial nerves and spinal nerves. An autonomous system is composed of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. The cranial nerves are of three types: sensory nerves, so they are 1, 2 and 8 in number. Motor nerves, they are 3, 4, 6, 11 and 12. And mixed nerves 5, 7, 9 and 10. So total 12 pairs of nerves are present in cranial nerves, which arises from the brain.
So in this diagram you can see central nervous system, which consists of brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system, which consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves.
Now we will see coverings of the brain. They are also called as meninges. So brain and spinal cord are surrounded by three connective tissue membranes and they are called as meninges. So cranial meninges, they are covering brain, and spinal meninges, they are covering spinal cord. The outermost covering of the meninges is called as dura mater. It is tough membrane. The middle layer is called as arachnoid matter, and the innermost layer, which is vascular and it is attached to the brain, is called as pia mater. Then the space between dura mater and arachnoid matter is called as subdural space, which contains the blood mainly. And arachnoid matter and pia matter, which contains the space, is called as subarachnoid space. Sub means below. So subarachnoid space between arachnoid matter and pia matter. So it mainly contains the cerebrospinal fluid. And the pia matter and arachnoid matter also called as leptomeninges.
Now we will see ventricles of the brain. So cavities or spaces present in brain are called as ventricles, and because of that the brain weight becomes lighter. So there are mainly 4 ventricles in the brain. So first and second ventricle, they are also called as lateral ventricles. They are cavities of the cerebral hemisphere. Then third ventricle, it is present in diencephalon, and it is the first and second open into the third ventricle through opening called as foramen of Monro. And the fourth ventricle, it is seen in hindbrain, and the third ventricle opens into the fourth ventricle by a narrow passage called as aqueduct of Sylvius. And these ventricles contain the fluid that is called as cerebrospinal fluid, and in coming slides we will see in detail the cerebrospinal fluid collection and examination.
Now let's study cerebrospinal fluid. So it is a clear fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord. So this CSF is produced by specialized cells, that is ependymal cells, present in the choroid plexus of the ventricles of the brain. And about 125 ml of CSF at 1 minute is produced, and about 500 ml is generated every day. The function of cerebrospinal fluid is to protect brain and spinal cord from the injury. Also it provides nutrients in form of glucose to the brain and spinal cord, and the waste they are generated, they are removed through the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are main functions of the CSF. So location of CSF, it occupies the subarachnoid space, that is the space between arachnoid matter and pia mater, and the ventricular system around the brain and spinal cord. So it fills ventricles, cisterns and sulci. Sulci means these are the depressions, as well as the central canal of the spinal cord. There is also connection from subarachnoid space to the bony labyrinth of the inner ear via perilymphatic duct, where the perilymph is continuous with the cerebrospinal fluid. And the significance of this is when there is leakage from inner ear, it may produce CSF rhinorrhea, means the CSF is throwing through the nose It is called as CSF rhinorrhea. So this is a clinical significance of the CSF. Now the composition, so it is mainly derived from the blood plasma, but proteins are less in this. So CSF proteins mainly 15 to 40 milligram percent, glucose is 40 to 80 milligram percent. Normally RBCs are not seen in CSF, and WBCs they are 0 to 5 per cubic millimeter. Thank you. Now what is importance of CSF collection? When we need the CSF collection, because CSF collection is not a routine procedure like we do for blood collection. So it is not easy method for the doctor and also for the patient. It is painful procedure. So the indications or where CSF is required in the meningitis. So it is the inflammation of the meninges, that is coverings of the brain. So the meningitis can be caused by virus, bacteria, tuberculosis bacteria or fungus. So to know the whether in meningitis is there or not there and which type, CSF collection is required. Then in brain hemorrhage like subarachnoid hemorrhage, in brain injury or brain tumor, CSF collection is required to know the exact pathology. Thank you. So collection of CSF is done by LP method, that is lumbar puncture method, and it is also called as spinal tap. So here lumbar puncture needle is there. So physician will first clean the part selected, that is the space between L3 and L4 lumbar vertebra. L3 means third lumbar and L4 means fourth lumbar vertebra, the space between two vertebrae. So with cleaning with spirit swab, betadine spirit swab, the needle is inserted into the intervertebral space, that is space between two vertebra, L3 and L4 preferably, and then it will go into the skin, then bone, and then the cavity, that is CSF filled space in the central canal of the spinal cord, and then with help of syringe the CSF is collected, and then it is collected in a bulb for the examination.
Hope you find this session useful for your understanding and for your exams. Thank you. Now we will see part 2, that is in detail the central nervous system and other systems. So first is central nervous system. So it consists of brain, and the brain consists of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So forebrain is also called as prosencephalon. It has olfactory lobe, cerebrum, diencephalon, which consists of thalamus, hypothalamus and pituitary gland. The midbrain, also called as mesencephalon, it consists of visual reflex center and auditory reflex center. Hindbrain, also called as rhombencephalon, it consists of cerebellum, pons and medulla oblongata. So first part is forebrain. In that first part is olfactory lobe. So these are two lobes present in anterior side of the cerebrum, and the function of olfactory lobe is the sensation of the smell. The second part of the brain is cerebrum. So it is the largest area of brain, and it is divided by longitudinal fissure, that is corpus callosum, into two cerebral hemispheres. So hemi means half. So right and left hemispheres. So each hemisphere consists of four parts. So first frontal lobe, second parietal lobe, third occipital lobe and fourth temporal lobe. The outer surface of cerebrum is called as cerebral cortex, and it contains grey matter which consists of nerve cells, that is neurons, and the inner surface is called as cerebral medulla. It contains white matter, that is nerve fibers. The structure of cerebrum shows folds called as convolutions. The convolutions are made up of gyri and sulci. So gyri means upper part and sulci means deeper portion. And the gyri and sulci, they help in increasing the surface area of the brain. Functions of cerebrum. So it performs function of mental functions like memory, planning, intelligence, understanding, thinking, judgment, and many sensory, motor and visceral functions. So frontal lobe, it has areas for intelligence and memory. It has motor areas for leg, arm, trunk, neck, face and tongue. Parietal lobe, center of sensation of touch, pain, temperature and speech. Temporal lobe, center for hearing, taste and smell. Occipital lobe, center of vision. So if occipital lobe injury is there, then patient may get diplopia, that is double vision. Diencephalon, it has three parts: thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus. So thalamus, it is a large part present above midbrain and functions all sensory impulses except smell pass through cerebrum via thalamus. It is associated with pain and emotion, and it is also associated with alert mechanism. Hypothalamus, that is below thalamus, and it is under two cerebral hemispheres and immediately below thalamus. It forms the floor of the brain. Functions: hypothalamus controls activities of the pituitary gland by secreting releasing hormones and inhibitory hormones. So it controls the pituitary gland and then all other glands. The hypothalamus, along with the limbic system, controls emotional and behavioral patterns. They regulate the expression of pleasure, anger, fear. Hypothalamus also regulates circadian rhythm and maintains consciousness and homeostasis. The hypothalamus possesses a feeding and thirst center. It controls the food intake by satiating the feeling. Epithalamus, it is the smallest and most dorsal region of the diencephalon. It lies posterior to the thalamus. It consists of pineal gland which secretes hormone melanin which induces sleep signals. Thus epithalamus along with hypothalamus regulates sleep-wake signals. Brainstem, it is the part of the brain located between diencephalon and spinal cord. So it consists of midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. The functions: it is situated between cerebrum and spinal cord. So brainstem coordinates functions between brain and the rest of the body by communicating information. It is responsible for controlling important body functions like blood pressure, heart rate, breathing, swallowing, consciousness. Second portion is midbrain, also called as mesencephalon. So the small stalk-like structure which connects pons and cerebellum with cerebral hemisphere is midbrain. The cerebral aqueduct, that is canal, passes through midbrain, and four swellings at dorsal portion called as corpora quadrigemina. The functions of midbrain: it controls vision, it controls hearing, that is auditory function, so it maintains balance of the body, and it is connecting link between forebrain and hindbrain. Hindbrain, which consists of first part cerebellum, so it is present just below cerebrum. It is second largest part of brain after cerebrum. The cerebellum consists of middle vermis which connects two lateral hemisphere called as cerebellar hemispheres. It is made up of outer grey matter and inner white matter. The surface is grooved, but convolutions are less prominent than cerebrum. The function of cerebellum: it coordinates muscular movements during walking and running. It plays important role in maintaining posture and balance of body. It maintains muscle tone. So if any injury caused to the cerebellum, there is loss of body balance and loss of posture. The second part of the hindbrain is medulla, also called as myencephalon or medulla oblongata. It is lowermost portion of the brainstem. It is extension within skull of the upper end of spinal cord. That means medulla continues with the spinal cord. Coverings: it contains outside white matter and inner grey matter opposite to the cerebrum. Functions: it controls involuntary actions like heartbeat, circulation, respiration, peristalsis. It controls act of swallowing, vomiting, sneezing, coughing, hiccups. It conducts to and fro impulses of motor and sensory nerves. It controls flow of gastric juice, which is important for digestion of food in stomach. The third part of the hindbrain is pons. It is also called as pons viroli, and it is strip of nervous tissue which lies below midbrain and above medulla. It consists of outer white matter, inner grey matter. Functions: it connects two lateral lobes of the cerebellum and midbrain to medulla. It provides space for motor fibers which run across cerebrum and cerebellum. It is concerned with regulation of heat in body, and it is center of reflexes. The second part of the central nervous system is spinal cord. So it extends from medulla or brainstem up to the second lumbar vertebra, that is L2, and it is about 40 centimeter in length. It passes through foramen of magnum at the base of the skull. It has a hollow oval shaped container that is tapering slightly as it descends, and the terminal fibrous extension is called as phylum terminal. It is surrounded by a protected meninges and vertebral column. The cauda equina is pia mater, continues up to the coccyx, and it is called as the cauda equina, that is like a horse tail. The transverse section of spinal cord, so centrally it consists of central canal which is filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. The H gray matter is surrounded by the white matter. The posterior or dorsal root and anterior or ventral horn consist of the dorsal and ventral roots of the spinal nerve, and then it is formed the mixed nerve. Dorsal ventral fissure at the dorsal side and coverings, that is meninges, that is dura mater, arachnoid matter and pia mater. The functions of the spinal cord: it plays an important role in the conduction of impulses to and fro from the brain to outlying parts. The spinal cord acts as a major center for many reflex actions of the body, and it also serves a connecting link between brain and the spinal nerves. Applied, poliomyelitis virus destroys anterior horn motor neurons, and then symptoms early are fever, headache, muscle pain, weakness, and then later paralysis occur, and patient may die due to paralysis of the respiratory tract. Peripheral nervous system. According to the origin, peripheral nerves are divided into cranial nerves and spinal nerves. The cranial nerves originating and ending from and into brain, and spinal nerves originating and ending from and into spinal cord. Cranial nerves, there are 12 pairs, that is 24 cranial nerves in number. First, olfactory, function is smell. Second, optic, function is vision. Third, oculomotor, eye movement. Fourth, trochlear, eye movement. Fifth, trigeminal, sensory and jaw movement. Sixth, abducens, eye movement. 7, facial, taste sensation, jaw movement. 8, auditory, hearing and balance. 9, glossopharyngeal, tongue muscle movement and sensory. 10, vagus, sensory to chest and abdomen organs, visceral organs, that is heart, lungs. 11, spinal accessory, movement of shoulder muscle. 12, hypoglossal, movement of the tongue. The second part of the peripheral nervous system are the spinal nerves. So these nerves arise from spinal cord and are called spinal nerves. The type is mixed nerve. They are formed by sensory portion, that is from the dorsal root, and it is afferent, and motor portion from the ventral root, it is efferent nerve. Total 31 pairs of spinal nerves are in man. First, cervical, they are 8 in number, present in neck region. Second, thoracic spinal nerves, 12 in number, present in chest region. Third, lumbar spinal nerves, 5 in number, present in back region. Fourth, sacral spinal nerves, 5 in number, lower back region. Fifth, coccygeal spinal nerve, so they are 1 in number, and they are found in the pelvic region, are called as coccygeal spinal nerve, found in region of the coccyx. So total C8, T12, L5, S5, CO1, total 31 pairs of the spinal nerves. ANS, that is autonomous nervous system. It controls the involuntary function of the body, and types are sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. So autonomous nervous system is a division of nervous system that supplies internal organs, smooth muscles and glands. The autonomic nervous system is a control system that acts largely unconsciously and regulates body functions like heart rate, force of contraction, digestion, respiration, pupillary response, urination, and certain reflex actions such as coughing, sneezing, swallowing, vomiting, hiccups. So this system is the primary mechanism in control of the fight and flight response. In ANS, first sympathetic system promotes fight and flight response, corresponds with arousal and energy generation, and inhibits digestion. Parasympathetic system has been said to promote rest and digest response, promotes calming of the nerves, returning to regular function and enhancing digestion. Sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system try to balance each other in the body. So sympathetic nervous system is operative during emergency, parasympathetic during the normal activity. Sympathetic is regulated by the neurotransmitter epinephrine and parasympathetic by the acetylcholine. The sympathetic system functions as the increasing heartbeat, then extra blood to muscle tissue, then helps in widening of the pupils of the eyes so as to make maximum use of the available light. So it is mainly concerned with the fight and flight mechanism. Parasympathetic is decreasing heart rate, then it diverts the blood flow from muscles to stomach and intestines and help in contracting of the pupils of the eyes. So it generally helps in rest and digest mechanism. So according to the neurotransmitters, the neurons are cholinergic neurons which secrete acetylcholine, and they are present in sympathetic, parasympathetic preganglionic neurons and sympathetic and parasympathetic postganglionic neurons. And the second type is adrenergic neurons which secrete noradrenaline or norepinephrine, and they are present in sympathetic postganglionic neurons. The receptors, so acetylcholine and norepinephrine, are stored in synaptic vesicles which are present in synaptic knob, and they are released at the axon ending by exocytosis. They diffuse through the synaptic cleft and are received by respective receptors. These receptors are membrane protein located on the plasma membrane, and depending on the type of neurotransmitters received by them are divided into two types. So they are cholinergic receptors or adrenergic receptors. Hope you find this session useful for your understanding and for your exams. Thank you.